in there with you. So one of the things I'm going to deal with tomorrow, I'm going to deal with what I call the elements of worship, to show you, watch it now, that every worship scenario in the Bible have got these 5 elements. That's what I'm going to deal with tomorrow. One, there's what the Bible called the worshipped, the one who starts worship. The worshipped is the recipient of worship. And then number 2, there's a worshiper, the one who brings the worship. Number 3, there's what we call worship, is the offering that is brought to the recipient. Are you with me? The number 4 is what I call the workshop. What is the workshop? The workshop is the place where the worshiper brings the worship to the worshipped. Oh, come on, walk with me. I'm done. 1 is the worshipped, the recipient of worship. Number 2 is the worshiper, the one who brings the worship. Number 3 is the worship, the gift that is brought. Number 4 is the workshop, the place of transacting. Number 5, the last one, this is the reason why for worship. It's what I call the workmanship. What the action of worship is fulfilling in your life. Once you understand these dimensions, I tell you, the day the Lord taught me these things, and they're all over the Bible. God is the worshipped. He's the one who told Abraham to go and sacrifice. Abraham is the worshipper because he's the one who's bringing the offering. Isaac is the worship. He is the gift that was requested by God from Abraham. The mountain in Moriah is the workshop. That's the place where Abraham is going to meet with God to bring to him what God asked for. The father of many nations is the workmanship. That's when God finally sealed what he promised. Take the same thought now. Come to the New Testament. The wise men. The baby Jesus is the worshipped. He's the one who was receiving the worship. The wise men are the worshippers because they are the one who are going to worship. The gold, frankincense, and myrrh is the worship. That's the gift that is brought. That stinky, smelly place in Bethlehem, that's the workshop. That's where the worshipper meets the worshipped to present the worship. The workmanship, it's what they became after the encounter. The Bible says the wise men went around telling of the good things they have witnessed. Now come to you and me now, according to Paul, Romans 12 verse 1. Because remember, I use all these 3 texts to explain worship. So I need to be able to take all these 5 elements and show you how they apply in our lives. So in where we are now, watch it now. Paul says, I urge you in view of God's mercy to offer your body. So the you he's talking to and the body that must be offered are 2 different entities. Walk with me. I'm done. I urge you, brethren, in view of God's mercy, to offer your body. So the you and the body that is offered are 2 different entities. Are you with me? So the you he's speaking to your spirit man. That's where worship is. Watch it now. So when Paul says, I urge you in view of God's mercy, he's speaking to your spirit man to offer your body. Verily, the body is of the spirit. The body is the house of the spirit. When the spirit leaves, the body is useless. Genesis 2, God formed the body. It was just a corpse. Only when the spirit knocked on the door, the body became life. So Paul says, you spirit, the image of you that looks like God, I'm talking to you. Offer this flesh, this body, as a living sacrifice. I have to explain that this is how the 5 elements work in us. Now watch it. The worship. No, let's read the text first. Paul says, offer your body as a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable to God. This is a reasonable act of worship. The offering of the body. So the worshipped is God because this thing is offered to God. The worshipper is your spirit man because it's your spirit that must do the offering. The worship, the gift is your body Because it's the body that is requested to be offered. Now, Churchill, the question is, where is the workshop? Where does the spirit meet God so he can offer the body? Park that thought. Let's go back to Genesis 22. The workshop in Genesis 22 is the mountain in Moriah. Come to Matthew chapter 2. The workshop for the wise men was that stinking smelling table in Bethlehem. What qualifies a place as a workshop of worship? It's not where the worshiper wants to go, but is anywhere the recipient of worship chooses to be. Walk with me. So for Abraham, God chose the mountain in Moriah. The mountain became the workshop, not because Moriah is special, but because of the presence there. So I'm not talking about the Moriah, I'm talking about the Moriah in the Bible. So the stable in Bethlehem became the workshop, not because the wise men want it to be, but because that's where the presence was. Jesus was. So question is, where does God dwell today? To answer that, let me show what Paul says in Acts 17. He says, God does not dwell in buildings made by men's hands. But according to 2 Corinthians 3:16, don't you know that your body is the temple of God and the Spirit of the Lord dwells in you? So your body is where the recipient of worship lives. So watch the explosion of worship. The worshipped is God. The worshipper is your spirit. The worship is your body. The workshop is where God is. In your body is your body. The workmanship is when you become like Christ. So you are a walking worship encounter. You don't have to come here to start worshiping. You are too late when you start here. Actually, you must bring worship. You must come here on fire in worship. Then you can fulfill what Paul talks about in 1 Corinthians 14:26. When we come together, one comes with a word, one comes with a hymn, one comes with a prophet. You bring something. The reason why believers keep saying, hey, the service was called today, it can be explained. You brought nothing. There's no heat to be found here. Fire, you are fire because you are a living sacrifice. A sacrifice must be placed on fire. So when you say the service was called, you can't blame the pastor. You can't blame the team. Check on your worship and count. So we are